I now have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Suhas Kshirsagar. He's a world-renowned Ayurvedic physician and educator, born into a traditional Rig Vedic family. He holds an MD in Ayurvedic medicine with a gold medal from the prestigious Pune University in India. More than 15,000 people have benefited from his groundbreaking treatments and programs, from individuals who are struggling with serious health challenges and chronic conditions, to those who simply want to feel better, lose unwanted weight, and gain more energy and an overall peaceful well-being. As an accomplished Ayurvedic physician, he has traveled worldwide popularizing Ayurvedic medicine, setting up clinics, training health professionals, formulating products for various companies, and working directly with patients. He's an acclaimed motivational speaker, experienced clinician, researcher, and an insightful medical astrologer who adds tremendous value to his clients and students alike. He often shares a stage with Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and Tony Robbins. He's the author of The Hot Belly Diet, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life, and The Art of Science and Vedic Counseling. He's currently the director of Ayurvedic Healing, Inc., an integrative wellness clinic in Santa Cruz, California. Please welcome Dr. Suhas Kshirsagar to the Yoga Research Society's Medical Yoga 2023. Doctor?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm so happy to be a part of Medical Yoga Conference 2023. I was listening to Dr. Vijayendra Pratap and his wonderful way of explaining things and inspiring all of you, including me. I'm very familiar with his work and Swami Kuvalayanandaji. The Kaivaladham Institute in Lonavala is a premier institute which blends the wisdom of the East with the rigors of science. And they were the pioneering people who started doing this in almost all fields of Ayurveda, yoga, and variety of Vedic sciences. The scientific journal they publish is something so wonderful, which I refer and research quite often to get authentic information. So it's literally my great honor and pleasure to be in the august company of Dr. Pratap and all of you. I've been practicing Ayurveda for almost 35 years. I left India way early and was working closely with His Holiness Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, who was the founder of the Transcendental Meditation Group, was living and working with him in Europe for many years, and then came to United States. And my work in this field of yoga, Ayurveda, meditation has continued through my books, through my teachings, through my clinical practice, and more importantly, through the education that I offer to everyone. As we start this discussion related with what Ayurveda is and what the perspective of Ayurveda towards happiness and health, I would like to share with all of you. What we will start with a very short Vedic invocation, which helps me connect with my roots and help me present all the information that I want to present from the authentic source. So allow yourselves to be present. That's the moment we have. There's no past, there's no future. It's an illusion anyway. So allow yourselves to be present. I'll do a short invocation and we'll get started. Pratas marami hridisansvaradatmatattvam satchit sukham paramhansa gatim turiyam yat swapna jagara sushuptim avaiti nityam tad brahma nishkalamaham nacha bhuta sangha. Hari Om, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Once again, welcome to Medical Yoga. And the concept of health and happiness in a clinical setting, where we stand at a crossroad, especially in this country, which is considered to be one of the richest and the most powerful country in the world. And if you ask a simple question, whether we are happy as a country, as a society, the current statistics that I'm going to share with you are mind-boggling. And the statistics that we talk about is about 27% of all Americans suffer from some mental health. 50% of mental emotional health begin by the age of 14, is the third leading cause of death for people between the age of 10 24, second leading of cause of death between people 15 to 24. 90% of the children who commit suicide have a mental disorders. Veterans, those people who have served our nation, they kill themselves. About 22 to 24 veterans kill themselves every day. In the richest and the most powerful country in the world, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death. And we are in this situation where we are trying to really understand that what is the most important thing that we need to be discussing here. You know what the third leading cause of death is? The third leading cause of death in this country is properly prescribed medication and hospitalization. Deaths that are directly caused by medical intervention, whether it is pharmaceuticals, drugs, or hospital-acquired infections. If we are discussing this, then we actually have a model that is not functioning. And as Swamiji said, we have to bring out Ayurveda and yoga as the practical sister sciences for enlightened living. What you do on the mat could be yoga, what you off the mat is Ayurveda. And how do we bring it, and why the things are shifting and changing? And being in this practice in clinical medicine, going around the country, teaching, training doctors and physicians, I have my pulse on what is happening. The doctors are quitting their works and job and profession because they are disillusioned with the medicine. The age of the current medicine is not even 200 years. The current age of medicine is not even 200 years. 100 years ago, the medicine, drugs that were used are not in use today. Forget about that. Even 50 years ago, the drugs that were practiced are not in use today. And the new drug that comes and hits the market today will not be in use in 2 to 5 years from now. So this is all based on very shaky foundation. I like to call Ayurveda as one of the most ancient and most comprehensive system of healthcare that is known to humanity. And the reason why we see the winds are changing, because we are able to see and apply Vedanta in medical sciences. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and Dr. Pratap will tell us that when he started working in the field of yoga in the West here, we used to talk about stress. We used to talk about the vague mind-body connection. How about depression and anxiety and how to cope with stress? And then slowly the thing shifted, where we needed to apply this to a degree where the psychology changed. How it was taught and how it was practiced is different. It's not about who did what to you anymore. Was it your parents? Was it a neighbor? Was it a cousin of yours? Exposing yourself to some degree of physical, mental, verbal abuse. It's all about positive psychology. It's about what can you do for yourself. Now, the medical journals that are coming out are the journals of positive psychology, the journals of study of spirituality. The psychology of well-being is the real thing. And spirituality in the clinical practice is exactly what we are discussing here. We are discussing the very thread which connects not only yoga and Ayurveda, but almost all the Vedic sciences, whether we talk about Gandharva Veda, whether we talk about Sthapatya Veda, whether we talk about Every aspect of Vedic literature is connected with that thread of consciousness that runs through it. In other words, Ayurveda and yoga are consciousness-based approaches to health and healing. And when we say consciousness-based approach to health and healing, through that field, when you bring in and restore your health and well-being, your ability to get destabilized, to get swayed away, feeling good or bad, happy or unhappy, becomes less and less and less. And I think this is the practical aspect where we are leading. And I think it's high time that we educate ourselves and everyone else around that our emotional health is our own domain. Long time ago, when we started talking about just mind-body medicine, we were thinking that the diseases of the body are different than the diseases of the mind. But we know that your mind can affect your body, body can affect your mind, and vice versa. And if we keep on fixing them differently, then we don't get the proper handle on it. The Ayurvedic view, the yogic view is it's just not about mind and the body and the opposite polarities of those, but we have to bring in the third dimension of the spirit in order to heal both of them at the same time. So we have to bring out and find out spiritual solutions to the challenges that we face in our mind and body. At all the levels, we have to understand this. And this is not something that we have been discussing right now. We do understand what stress can do to your body and how that connection. There's a new branch in medicine nowadays that we talk about, which is called as neuroendocrino-psychoimmunology. Neuroendocrino-psychoimmunology, where your thought affects every biochemical, neurochemical in your body, and ultimately the organic disease, the physical disease shapes and takes place, where you can circle an ICD code and understand that this is what is going on. That can be correlated to headaches, your muscles are stiff, you are having pain, inflammation, infections, skin irritations, breathlessness, fatigue, variety of different autoimmune conditions, along with emotional component, which is worrying, muddled thinking, impaired judgment, nightmares, hasty decisions, negativity, indecisiveness. At an emotional level, you feel a lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence. You're feeling a little bit more irritable, anxious, gloominess, pessimism. And because of how you feel and how unhappy you are with your life, you're making choices which are self-destructive in nature. Nobody wants to lead an unhealthy lifestyle. But since they are unhappy, they want to smoke, they want to drink, they want to eat good or bad foods to fulfill their imbalances. So this degree of stress is the root cause for many problems. And forget about what we know in the modern culture right now. This has been eternal. There's a statement in Charak Samhita, which is considered to be the premier textbook of Ayurveda. It says, Vishado Roga Vivardhana Sreshtaha. Vishada means depression, sadness, gloominess, will worsen any disease that you're experiencing or feeling. It enhances everything. And even when we look at the supreme textbook of yoga, which is Bhagavad Gita, the very first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna Vishad Yoga. Arjuna, who is not able to understand what his dharma is, what his role is in the field of life. His mouth is getting dry, his hands are trembling, the weapons are falling down. He doesn't want anything. He doesn't want the kingdom of heavens. He doesn't want glory. He doesn't want victory. He's sweating profusely. These are all acute signs of panic attack and depression. And now there's a whole session of psychotherapy that is happening on the battlefield of Mahabharata, where Lord Krishna, as a counselor, as a therapist, as a psychotherapist, who understands the patient really well, who knows all his PTSDs that happened in the past, whether it is Agyatavas or the debacle of Dutya in the Raj Darbar, or the challenges or the humility or the insults that he faced. So the psychotherapist as a healer knows and understands it and guides them in 45 minutes, 50 minutes, one single session of psychotherapy brings them back to Moksha Sannyas Yoga as the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So in just one session, you can find someone who is feeling unhappy, tired, depressed, anxious, panicky, and lead them to feel really empowered and excited and supremely happy going back to their life and doing their dharma. If that is the model of Bhagavad Gita, we wanted to talk about this in the form of Vedic counseling. And I co-authored this book with my dear friend, Dr. David Frawley, and the art and science of Vedic counseling, which integrates all the elements of Ayurveda, yoga, meditation, sadhana, and different practices of living, which helps us. Because what we know right now, with the emotion that you have, your body is instantly transformed. Emotion is nothing but energy in motion. And these are thermographic images of people. When they are experiencing an emotion, you can take a thermal imaging to see what the body is going through. You can see the body catches on fire with anger. What happens to it when they are experiencing fear or happiness, pride, depression, anxiety, envy, love. Without you knowing, your auric field, your thermographic functioning of the body changes at a deep cellular level. And imagine if you're going through a whole roller coaster ride of emotions all day long without knowing how to manage them, how to regulate them, how to change them, how to replace them, how to motivate yourself. So Pratapji said something interesting, is use your body to quiet your mind and use your mind to quiet your body. It is not just the visceral experience, but it's the combination of the visceral experience which connects with the innermost layer of the physiology. In Ayurveda, we say the sthula sharir, which is the grosser part of the body, is connected like your bones, muscles, tissues, organ system. Underneath that sthula sharir level is the sukshma sharir. Sukshma sharir is related with your mind, feelings, emotions, sensory organs, sensory faculties, experiences that go in. And the deepest layer is the karan sharir, which is the field of atma, the field of life, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it. So to integrate all the three of them with a given practice on a daily basis is something which we want to integrate more and more. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, we have a lingo, we have a language of doshas. Some of you are familiar with that language, some of you are not. It's the language of doshas. We call them as vata, pitta, and kapha. Vata is a predominant of space and air. Pitta is a predominance of fire and water. And kapha is a predominance of water and earth. And as we go through a roller coaster in our life, we either are running away from it or fighting for it or just withdrawn, not wanting to do about it. This phenomenon is fully accepted in Western medicine, which is called as fight or flight syndrome. But it's not just fight or flight. There's a freeze also which happens. So fight is correlated with pitta, flight is correlated with vata, and freeze is correlated with kapha. So first and foremost, all of you should know your innate dosha type, your body type, your mind-body type. Because the way you are going to respond, before you respond, your doshas are going to respond to that. The doshas are like the software and the hardware of your body in which it is going to respond. Pitta, you know those people, when they are under a little stress, they get irritable, they lose their temper easily, they get grumpy, they get very aggressive and defensive. Vata people who are a little bit more shaky and anxious, they get anxious, they get fearful, they get insecure, and they avoid it and they want to run away from it. They don't want to confront it. Kapha, these are the people who are by nature easygoing, loving people. But when they experience some degree of stress, they become numb. They detach themselves. They get withdrawn and they give up very easily. So the lingo of dosha is so important because how you respond to some degree of stress, happiness, or unhappiness depends upon that. And as Swamiji was discussing just now, the challenge with the fast-paced lifestyle right now, with the social, emotional, and spiritual stresses, is creating a lot of problem. We experienced something in the pandemic recently. The biggest challenge is the lack of spiritual connection, loss of meaning and purpose to really understand who you are. What do you want? And what can you do on a daily basis that keeps yourself healthy, happy, and makes a difference in someone else's life? That is so powerful. Because even when we say the prayer, and you were reciting a prayer which is so beautiful, Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhagya. And the prayer, why is it so universal? Because it's not for me. Sarve, it's for all. For them to be sukhi. It's an interesting word. The word sukha and dukkha. You must have heard that word many times. Sukha and dukkha. The word kha, K-H-A, is a Sanskrit word which means akasha, space. So kha means akasha or space. When the things are flowing easily, smoothly, then you are healthy and happy. When the things are not flowing easily and smoothly, and they are blocked, stagnant, stuck, obstructed, it creates pain. Dukkha. It creates dukkha. Even in Rig Veda, it has actually described very clear understanding about what sukha and dukkha is. And when we say sarve bhavantu sukhina, we are praying for the restoration of the flow that should happen. Flow is life and health. And obstruction of flow is disease, shriveling, stagnation, blockage. And when we say sarve santu niramaya, ama means blockage, imbalances, residual impurities of diet and digestion that is making your body feel heavy, bloated, gassy, stuck. Ama. And we wish upon them to be niramaya, free of ama. Physical toxins, emotional toxins that are clogging your channels, blocking the flow of intelligence. We want to restore it. So the prayer says, Sarve santu niramaya. And sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Bhadra means something positive, goodness. You want to see goodness in everything, having a positive outlook and finding goodness in every little thing as an outlook, as an attitude. And that outlook and that attitude is cultivated way early in your life, even before you were born, in those 9 months of the assembly line of the pregnancy. And then the first 3 to 5 years right after you're born. So the seed of happiness, as we say, is sown right when the first combination of the sperm and the ovum happens. So the early childhood experience is such a powerful understanding. And the set point that is created in your brain, in your mind, maybe in your consciousness to be happy is created way too early. So when we say, Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, may everyone look at the goodness in everything. It's a Vedic prayer. Because when everybody is looking at the goodness in everything, then there's hardly anything that you feel unhappy about. There's another beautiful mantra that we often chant about, Om Bhadram Karane Vishrunuyama Devaha, Bhadram Pashyema Kshabhirya Jatra, Stirai rangai stushtu vaunsastanubihi vyashemadevahitam yadayu. Let my eyes see goodness in everything. Let my ears hear only noble things around me. Let my senses ingest only which is good for me. And there's a way in which you can take in what is good for you, what is nurturing and nourishing for you. And the purpose of yoga and Ayurveda and meditation that you have all a great testimony of, that you have been living this way for such a long time. And you have simply shifted and changed inside out. You are completely brainwashed. You look at it differently, you become resilient, you bounce back from difficult situations, you try to look at goodness in everything. You don't let things stick to you and get stuck with anything. So the yogic community, the Ayurvedic way of living, an enlightened practice of these sciences, which are for practical daily living, they are not for just being recluse or be in a cave standing on one leg. It is all for your daily living. And the challenges that I see as a clinician is the lack of spiritual connection, loss of meaning and purpose, lack of social support, and lack of community, which is like-minded people. Right now, we are doing a satsanga. And this satsanga, as Shankaracharya says, satsangatve nissangatva. Nissangatve nirmohatva. Nirmohatve jivanamukti. So we are understanding this, that this community helps us inspire each other. Another thing which is problematic that I see is nature deprivation. If you study this term, and I wrote a book on this topic called as Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life. Nature deprivation. There's a term that we use in medicine called as biophilia. Biophilia means being disconnected from the natural environment. When you are able to sleep in a room where you can see the light, have the windows, feel the fresh air, see the greenery, be very, very close to abundant bodies of Mother Nature, your ability to manage your stresses, your ability to manage the challenges that you feel in your mind and body are greatly reduced. Negative emotions, persistently self-defeating thoughts, anger, fear, guilt have to be replaced, washed. Lack of personal time, that is the biggest challenge. Busyness at the cost of happiness is what is making us all unhappy. And especially where I practice here in the Bay Area, it's a huge challenge where people are becoming more and more unhappy because they work 12, 16, 18 hours is the norm. Lack of personal time, too much of work, inadequate rest, and constantly subconsciously worrying about something. Unhealthy mental states leading to addictions, overeating, destructive mental patterns. Social media, faster pace of life. Because when we talk about social media and your exposure to that, it doesn't remain there. You're giving your keys of happiness to others. When you look at someone's photo on Instagram that they're having a jolly good time in Bahamas and enjoying a beautiful sunlight and walking on the beach, it makes you a bit unhappy. Watching you, someone seeing them happy makes you unhappy. Your dopamine, your serotonin at a hormonal level is affected by what you're seeing and watching. And imagine if you're looking at your tweets, looking at your Facebook postings and Instagram, there is a constant joy of unhappiness and feeling good or bad going through all day long. It has increased our pace of life. 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. It's increasing the pace. The more crazier our mind becomes, the more difficult it is going to curtail it. We train it to be that fast, and then it's literally that monkey that is making us all very unhappy at the same time. Too much of ambient distractive noises, pervasive noises, smells, light, images, overstimulation, money, advertisements, computers, TV, smartphones. These are all causes that why people are becoming unhappy. And what are the solutions? We need to understand our personality. It is by nature, Vata people are a little nervous. They like to change their mind. They can be confused, spacey, scattered, restless. Their decisions are not well thought after. So you understand your mind body type. Pitta people by nature, a little bit more determined, confident, aggressive, outgoing. They are a little bit more aggressive, irritable, jealous, and angry. They're a little bit more competitive, aggressive people. Kapha, by nature, they're a bit calm and content, but they can get a little bit more clingy and dull and inertia and heavy, where they're not able to really free themselves up. And how do you free them? Because this is our physical mind body type. The best way to do is you can't change the hardware that you're born with. You can't change your parents. You can't change your parents. You can't choose your parents, but you can always choose your friends. You can always choose the company that you keep. You can always choose the books that you read, the movies that you watch. Because if you are under the influence of sattva guna, which is considered to be the guna for purity, lightness, brightness, calmness, tranquility, over rajas, which is considered to be too much of movement, dynamism, activity, competition, aggression, over tamas, which is dullness, darkness, inertia, lack of light. Because you could be a vata type in a sattvic mode, you can be very inspired, enthusiastic, with good, genuine love of arts and creativity. But the same vata person in a rajasic mode can be even more nervous, fearful, anxious, and worrisome. And a vata person in a tamasic mode is depressive, addicted, psychotic, and suicidal. They're always worried about what did I do wrong and kill themselves. Versus pitta people who won't think what did they do wrong. They will always probe what did you do wrong. They will not kill themselves, they'll kill you. They'll be more homicidal with their tendency. And we see this nature even when we look at the country at a geopolitical map. It's a polarization of people, places, and personalities in which our choices, under the influence of which guna we are living, what books we are watching, what television channels you're watching, slowly changes and transforms your mentality. Pitta person in a sattvic mode can change the world. Look at Dr. Pratap. Because that leadership is there, but that passion, that tireless pursuit to keep on doing what you're doing for 50 odd years with degree of leadership, guides, spiritual teachers, lot of clarity is what the strength is. But the same pitta person, when they get into a rajasic mode, can be very angry, grumpy, jealous, controlling, and too much judgmental. And then in a tamasic mode, that pitta person actually, you give them a gun and you know what they can do with. Hateful, violent, vindicative. A kapha person in a sattvic mode is much more nurturing, unconditionally loving. So one of the crux of Bhagavad Gita was Lord Krishna identifying sattva, rajas, and tamas guna and giving you the tips and tools in terms of your diet, routine, and lifestyle. What should you be doing to enhance the sattva? How can you keep rajas at bay? How can you minimize the tamas in your life? And not even that, guna is still an illusion to a certain extent, where he says that at some point you'll have to strive towards the more sattvic lifestyle and then let go of that as well. Nistragunyo bhavarjuna. Slowly transcend and release even the limitations of the guna. But becoming a vegetarian, doing meditation, practicing yoga, shopping in the right place, adopting a healthier lifestyle. These are all sattvic modalities that we can start with. And I'm going to share some wonderful research that we know that has come out that talks about subjective well-being influences your health. And it's a fact now. This is all published in JAMA. This poll that I'm going to share with you is coming from Gallup, and it's music to my ears as an Ayurvedic practitioner, because research evidence that happiness can have beneficial effects on cardiovascular, immune system, influence hormones, inflammation levels, and speed wound healing. Just a state of happiness. Respond to all of those things. If you're going through chemotherapy and you're happy and positive and believe in what you're doing, you respond 200 times better than someone who's negative, pessimistic, and doubtful. Happiness has been linked to longer telomeres, which is the predictor of longevity. These are the tips at the end of the chromosome, which can predict your longevity. Protein caps at the end of chromosome that get shorter with age, and the longer it remains, the subjective well-being is considered to be one of the most influential thing in medicine that has not been talked about. Because medicine has been very compartmentalized and very in silos of different kinds. But this actually breaks them free and now opens up everything to ask some predominant simple questions. They did studies about why people are living longer. They tried to study why people still smoke and drink and do not get any heart disease. They tried to study people who over-exercise and overwork and kill themselves prematurely. So at the end of the day, that feeling of subjective well-being, and I want you to engage into this practice yourself and ask yourself some key questions, because it is important as we listen, we compare and bounce that idea to ourselves. How happy are you? Is it an emotional state? It's not only what you feel about yourself, but how you feel about your place in the world, how you see the world, and how happy you are, how satisfied you are with your life. It's a more of a global judgment about your acceptance with your life. It's just not cognitive assessment, but how satisfied you are with your life and how you look at yourself as your place in the world. And the formula that many scientists have agreed upon right now is happiness is equal to S plus C plus V. And my dear friend and mentor Deepak Chopra wrote a beautiful book on this topic called as The Happiness Prescription. So the happiness set point that is created in your brain is right before you were born, in the 9 months of pregnancy and the first 3 years of your upbringing. The way you watch your parents, the household environment is that set point is created that early. That is why it is so important to embark on this responsibility of having a child and raising a child, especially for those times. So the emotional set point of how you perceive happiness is created, I would say, in the first 5 years. Then the second important component is your conditions of living right now. Your conditions of living, where you live, your job, your money, wherever you are living. Your street, how much you are surrounded with greenery, whether you have a decent house, you live in a decent neighborhood. All of those are called as conditions of living. And the third is voluntary activities. What you do for yourself on a daily basis. Your voluntary activities on a daily basis, how well are you eating, how well you're exercising, how good sleep you're getting, what spiritual practice you're doing, whether you're doing journaling, variety of different things that you do to make yourself happy. And when you combine them together, you will have a person by nature who is happy. So hold that thought in your mind for a moment and ask yourself, if there's a prescription, what you should be doing in order to be happy and healthy, because we used to say that earlier, that if you're healthy, you're more likely to be happy. If you're healthy, you're more likely to be happy. But what we know from science now, that happy people are more likely to be healthy than the other way around. And what are the seeds? The seeds are spirituality, exercise, emotions, diet, and sleep. If you are able to manage all of these areas, 5 areas, diet that is filled with sattva, spirituality that brings you more close to sattva, exercise in outdoor nature that creates more sattvic feeling like yoga, emotions, positive emotions, and getting a good night's sleep. So the basic tenets of life is something where everything will be related. Because in the olden days, we used to talk about in medicine, I mean to say, is happiness is you need to go to a shrink, get a happy pill, and get a happy molecule that will suddenly make you happy. But now for sure we know that with every tendon, sinew, organ, cell in your body can literally understand how happy you can be and what can you contribute to make it happen. The prescription is physical well-being. Do you exercise regularly to improve your health? Do you get enough energy to get things done regularly? You have enough activity. Think about yesterday morning till today, what you were doing, who you were with, how you felt. Did you feel well rested yesterday? And your health, physical health, is not about just weight and height or the BMI. It's all about your physical well-being. And your physical well-being depends upon your sleep, exercise, yoga, pranayama, which is leading to creativity, emotions, feeling recharged, speedier healing, spiritual outlook toward life. Your moods are better. Your immune functioning is happier. That's what we saw during COVID, isn't it? Pandemic. People were lonely. They were eating bad foods. They were eating mostly junk foods all day long. They were binging on Netflix and they were drinking. The alcohol sales went up by 600%. And what we were receiving from the leaders of our country daily on television was put your mask and wash your hands. There was no other information that was given to us that will boost our mood and immune function. Get enough sleep, or exercise, or stretch, or drink hot water, or do anything different that would help you lighten up. Nothing. Apart from those couple of things, just wait for the vaccination, wait for the drug to come in. No concept of even diet, what it can do to you. Food for good mood, because what we know that the rainbow colored diet, the food with so much of vibrant rainbow colors and 6 tastes. In Ayurveda, we talk about sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent taste, coupled with 7 colors. 6 tastes coupled with 7 colors. Food that are God-made, Mother Nature made. Red foods, blue foods, green, spices, omegas, oils. So if you are trying to do something, it'll really influence your total well-being and subjective well-being. If you are hanging out with people, they say that 171% increase risk of obesity if your close friend that you hang out with on a daily basis is also overweight and obese. 40% of risk of obesity if your sibling is obese. 20% if your friend's friend is obese. So it's a collective vibe of how you feel and how you work. And we are not blaming those people for our problem, but we are trying to understand that how can we create a group, a satsang, a quality around us that motivates us. Career well-being is so important. If you like what you do and do what you like, it's 50% of enlightenment. Do you like what you do every day? What are your strengths? Are they used in the workplace? What are the best way to use them? Is there someone in the workplace who encourages you, who tells you, appreciates you about your development? And at work, do your opinions count? Because there are 4 A's that we talk about, which are absolutely necessary for human growth and your own happiness. A stands for affection, appreciation, attention, and acceptance. If you want appreciation, appreciate others. If you want attention, pay attention to others. If you want affection, love others. or at least express your love towards others. And if you want to be accepted, then accept everything as is. There's a beautiful Sanskrit sutra which says, Anandaha asti svikritihi. Anandaha asti svikritihi. Happiness is acceptance, things as is at the moment. And it's a very profound statement when we say Anandaha asti svikriti, because it makes your chitta happy. Chitte prasanne bhuvanam prasannam. Chitte prasanne bhuvanam prasannam. Chitte vishanne bhuvanam vishannam. Chitte vishannam bhuvanam vishannam. When the mind is happy, you feel the whole universe is happy around you. When the mind is unhappy, vishanna, you feel the whole universe around you is unhappy. So for you to really pay attention to what you want is by giving it to others will actually improve. And your ability to earn money and feel good about with your work as a dharma, using your skill sets, is very, very important. Especially your ability to earn money. It doesn't buy you happiness, but it actually makes you feel good about yourself and the way you earn money. How satisfied you are with the standard of living, because you want to be pleasantly content, santosha, with what you can buy, what you can do with it. Do you have enough money to buy food for yourself and your family? And your ability to buy good food. You make regular trips, vacation. Can you afford to do this? Can you spend money on buying the book that you want to read? Or buying the experiences that makes you happy? Because the things don't make you happy, the experiences make me happy. That is what the latest science is saying. Spending on experiences instead of things. Anticipation, experience, fond memories that linger into your system. Giving away some money that you can. Automation in your life. It's slowly leading towards total well-being and, more importantly, social well-being. Human beings are social creatures. Everything that we do is related with your fabric of how you interact with the society. Do you smile regularly? Do you learn something new? Keep yourself engaged in finding and learning something new. Learning keeps you young, healthy, happy. One of the things that Pratapji was saying just now is the connection between your breathing, nose. Nose, you breathe in, and the connection between your heart and brain is through the gateway of your nose. In Ayurveda, we say nasahi shiraso dwara. It's the gateway of your brain. And connecting to those polarities of consciousness, okay? We say uro hruday, which is the heart in your chest, and mastishka hruday, which is the hridayam in your brain, in your skull, which is the brain. So connecting the dot between the heart and the brain. And the science says aging heart leads to an aging brain, and an aging brain leads to an aging heart. You do pranayama, good for heart, good for brain. You do meditation, good for heart, good for brain. Do exercise, good for heart, good for brain. You do exercise, good for heart, good for brain. You add some simple, good quality spices, cinnamon, turmeric, good for heart, good for brain. Laughter, good for heart, good for brain. If you connect the link between these two, you're going to live longer, healthier, and happier. So I think the connection of finding love is so important, and loving yourself as the first and the most important quality. Because if you love yourself, then only you are able to extend this to your friends and family and relatives, whatever you are able to say. So the social engagement is so important. Hanging out with people who are happy. If you have a happy friend, your happiness scale goes up by 15%. If you have a happy friend's friend, it goes up by 10%. If 3 or 4 of your friends are happy, goes up by 6%. If you have a brother or sister who is happy, up by 40%. If you have a spouse who is happy, 37%. If your spouse is not only happy, but is a good, clean, health conscious eater, she focuses on good food, preparations, and exercise, your happiness scale goes up by 5 times. And if your best friend is active, also loves to eat good food, and that is the person that you hang out with quite often in the workplace or anywhere, it goes up by 7 times. So I think the radiance, the coherence of happiness depends upon how you interact. There's a sutra in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It says, Tat Sannidho Vairatyaga. In the vicinity of which the negative tendencies tend to cease. So you should be doing things for yourself, but you should also be paying attention to everything else around you in the community itself. Do you feel safe in the neighborhood, the community where you live, whether you have helped people, you have helped in the organization, is the things are getting better? And how often are you engaging into Simran, which is Smaran, chanting, invoking godliness and divinity, satsang, keeping a good company, and doing selfless service, something with seva, through organized events, connecting with people, volunteering with things. And I'm so happy with the Sky Foundation that it's a volunteer-based organization. That itself tells that you're learning, that your education is taking you slowly towards what I call it as total well-being. And there are many things which we talk about: meditation, planning a trip, practicing gratitude, helping others, practice smiling, spending time with your family, moving closer to work, and finding out what are the draining areas where your energy drains. Go outside, play, sleep more, exercise, go for a run, gratitude journal, laughter, eating good food. And biophilia, as we say, innate human instinct to connect with nature and other living beings that we also know, whether you have pets, cats or dogs or any pet, interaction with them actually makes you happy. Just outdoors, looking at a green window, green little twig or a branch outside your window can reduce your anxiety. And there were numerous studies that were done when the hospital bed was facing a freeway versus there was a little plant or it was a branch that you could see a bird. Reduces anxiety, improves sleep quality, good mood, improves cognitive performance. So just being in nature and surrounded by nature improves all of that thing. Stabilizes your blood pressure, reduces pain, strengthens the immune system. So there are more live buildings that are being built that are of this kind. And what Swamiji was saying earlier was important, because the right and left part of the body, the science is all about using the alternate use of the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. Every aspect of every asana and pranayama promotes the symmetry between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. The right is global, musical, artistic, intuitive, synthetical, governed by moon, lunar, heart, feminine, yin, parasympathetic in nature, cooling, calming, Shakti. And the Shiva aspect is the left hemisphere, which is linear, verbal, mathematical, logical, rational, analytical, solar, liver, masculine, yang, sympathetic, pingala, heating and stimulating. And every activity that you do to synergize the right and left, hot and cold, nowadays we say that you're bringing or creating new interneuronal connections with these activities. You're growing your brain, neuroplasticity, neurogenesis, synchronized massages, even simple walking, alternate use of your body is helping you to become stronger. I'm going to leave you with a couple of simple tips from a yogic and Ayurvedic perspective to make you happy and make everyone else around you happy. We are all metabolic end products of our sensory experiences. Think about it for a moment. We are the metabolic end products of our sensory experiences. Change your perceptions, change your life. Expand your awareness through mindfulness. Synchronize as much as possible your biological rhythms with the mothers of nature. Like a good animal, go to sleep at a proper time, leave the nest at dawn. Start your day between sunrise to sunset. Eat consciously, eat light, clean and pure foods. Regular exercise leads to fit body with a fit mind. Eliminate toxicity, detoxify, purify on a regular basis. As the nature is doing the cleanse, you time that cleanse with it. Detox on equinox. Cultivate flexibility, creativity. Listen to your body's signals, live in the present. Try to quiet the internal dialogue as much as possible through meditation. Minimize the traffic of the thoughts, regulate them, shape them, purify them. Relinquish the need of the external approval. What other people think of you is none of your business. Because the world out there reflects your reality in here. And that's the most important thing. Ayurveda is the most original lifestyle medicine. And what we know from the science of epigenetics right now. If your outer environment is constantly affecting your inner environment, then you are at a loss constantly. But if your inner environment is capable of influencing your outer environment, then you are semi-enlightened, I would say, because you are influencing things outside. You are not just epigenetically affected by it, but you're changing the epigenome around it. And that's what Ayurveda is all about. Shedding the burden of judgment, respecting the plan of nature with patience, flexibility, and resilience to bounce back from adverse situations. Make people feel important. Because if you want respect, give them respect. If you want love, love them. Make people feel important, loved, valued, respected, and appreciated. Find your passion and purpose. Follow the inspiration of the moment and try to be creative. Contribute to something which is bigger, better, and greater than yourself. Make silence, meditation, prayer a daily practice. Keep all the moving parts moving. Physical movement, exercise, sports, fun, happiness building foods. Foods which are God-made are happiness building because everything is, we call it a superfood because it is a packet which contains everything, not only the color, the taste, the smell, the aroma, the phytonutrient, bioflavonoid, vitamin, mineral, everything is rolled into a little blueberry when you look at it. It's a happiness building food, fresh and whole. Keep the water flowing, hydrate yourself well, surrender, let go. Because we all know that happy people are more likely to be healthy. Just a state of mind. Namaste.
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. That
Thank
was a
you.
wonderful presentation. Please put your questions in the chat. And Barbara or Mark, if you have any questions right off, feel free. Otherwise, I can ask one.
Go ahead.
Okay. So there's so many wonderful yogic and Ayurvedic techniques to help improve our psychological health and well-being. And it can be a bit overwhelming. Do you have some suggestions for where someone could start?
Well, you can start with asana, you can start with pranayama, and you can start with meditation. Because the Ashtanga yoga, it doesn't have to be that you have to really spend a lifetime perfecting yama and niyama, then only you can move. It's like pulling a chair towards you. Pull one chair and the whole chair comes to you. You start somewhere, and we have seen this. Without even asana, without even pranayama, we started just initiating them in meditation. And as they started meditation in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, they became vegetarian. They became more aware of what they were eating. They started doing yoga. They started doing pranayama. They started following a variety of different yamas and niyamas as such. So I think you have to start. And as Swamiji said, practice is the key. So you pick up a simple technique. It could be a short technique of meditation and pranayama. And that it could be a starting point. If as you become a little avid student, because the practice of it, the practical application of it is slowly going to shift and change your awareness without you even realizing it. And we see this all the time in people, all the time. Before you realize, you're shifting and changing. And you go back to the same parents over a vacation and look at them. Gosh, are these the people who I was born and raised with? Because what you have done with your yoga, meditation, practice, eating nowadays, you're a complete different human being looking at that aspect of your life. You can change, you can shift. So I would suggest meditation because that will bring all the other things. Many times people have reservations with asana, where I have a good flexible body to do that or not, whether I have learned pranayama properly, but meditation would be rather easy to bring in, and then everything else would open up.
Great. Thank you so much. We have a question from Dr. Selvin. Please talk about circadian rhythm in the context of the seeds you mentioned.
I think this is very important because the circadian rhythms, what we know, and the recent discovery of clock genes tells us that every cell in our body responds to the cycles of day and night. Circadian disruption is one of the main cause of diseases now. So waking up right before sunrise and unwinding after sunset, and slowly placing your diet, routine, exercise, even from a solar nutrition perspective. When the sun is waking up, it's a tender sunlight in the morning. So your Agni is waking up after 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep. So eat something light. It's a lighter breakfast. When sun is prominent in the middle of the day in the sky at its zenith, eat your biggest meal of the day, because the srotas are open like it's a blooming lotus that opens to everything. And then you are able to digest that food much more easily. You consume those calories. And around sunset, the lotus is shutting down. And so are the bodily systems and functions. The body is shutting down, and you don't want to be putting truckload of food at that time. So you want to eat something light and easy to digest close to sunset, and then at least be able to digest that food 3 hours before you sleep. So there's a biological clock of the doshas that we talk about. Like 6 a.m. in the morning till 10 a.m. is the kapha time of the day. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is the pitta time of the day. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. is the vata time of the day. Again in the evening, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is the kapha time. So the last bus that takes you there to help you sleep is by 10 p.m. Otherwise, you are just tossing and turning and closing and opening the refrigerator door in the middle of the night. And then it's difficult because you have missed that. That is when it peaks up. And then from 10 to 2, even though you're asleep, the body is doing so many functions between 10 and 2. The bacteriophagic function, the immune regulation, immunomodulation, lipid synthesis, all of those activities are happening in the middle of the night when you're asleep. All the genes are working overtime in the night when you're asleep. And between 2 to 6 a.m. in the morning is the vata time of the day. So by 4 o'clock, your body starts getting ready to be awake. So as you follow the circadian rhythms, you are syncing what you're doing with what your body is trying to do. And that itself is the most innate intelligence that one can follow. And that is what we know from science right now, that circadian disruptions, you eat whenever you want, you sleep whenever you want, you have sex whenever you want, you travel whenever you want, all the jet lag, different time zones, all of that is wreaking havoc on people's physiology. And without leaving anywhere, still people have different routines from Monday to Friday. They have different routine on Saturday, Sunday. All of that is creating tremendous amount of circadian disruption. You're throwing a wrench in the perfect functioning of the physiology. Your job is to sync your internal rhythms with what you're doing outside. And that's the whole premise of this book, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life. And I think the reason why I say this so importantly, because these habits, even in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gave a very simple definition of what to do to be healthy, isn't it? What he said, Yukta ahar viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnava bodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. Eat the right food at the right time, go to bed at a proper time, wake up at the proper time. That's the yoga that relieves all causes of suffering. So I think this is coming to an age where we are understanding why the circadian rhythm, because for ages together, it's all about sun as the giver of health. Is that right? Sun is the giver of health. On planet Earth, sun is the giver of health. We get food, we get everything. The days and nights are created, the seasons are changing. Everything is just due to sun. So when we worship the sun, when we say Gayatri Mantra, when we do sun salutations, this is all about worshipping sun. And so your job is to follow the rhythms of sunlight and night. The gods and the goddesses of the day and night are different. The rituals are different. The techniques are different. The Agnihotra is different. Everything is based upon the same thing. And suddenly you start realizing, oh, I'm a morning person, I'm a night person, I'm a lark, I'm an owl, this and that. And you keep on disrupting yourself with unhealthy habits, and you start believing them before you start realizing that is already creating a lot of challenges and problems. And we see this. And it's a published research that people who work late in the night, who are doing the swing shifts, nurses, late night shift from World Health Organization is being labeled as a carcinogenic activity, cancer promoting activity. There's a reason why we call it as a graveyard shift.
Right. Thank you so much. That's very helpful to hear. We have a couple of comments about, the feeling like the universe is a difficult place to be with more violence and fear. Technology is eliminating people's senses and organs of perception. And how do we deal with these challenges when we feel this way looking out into the world?
Well, these challenges have always been around in every aspect of civilizations. It's a different nature and aspect of that. You let it affect them more so than what it should be. You're supposed to do your job, you're supposed to lead your lifestyle, you have to minimize some of the unwanted distractions from yourself and see that you are not that much affected by it. The more you think about it, the more you read about it, the more you dwell into that negativity, the more you become. What you see is you become. What you touch, you become. What you ingest is what you become. Because there is nothing that one thing that you're going to do suddenly going to shift and hope that the whole universe is going to change, because it's all about collective consciousness. But the collective consciousness depends upon individual consciousness. And your job is to not to dwell into that a whole lot. You do your job and simply hope that it will shift and change. But it doesn't mean that every aspect of that is terrible for you. It is really bad for you, because it's a medium. It's a vehicle through which how you use it, how you can use it. Even right now, technology is helping us to reach so many people. There are so many tenets of this technology which is making a difference in people's lives. So we use that is useful and we apply that for our daily living. We don't let it dictate it. We don't let it dictate it to what we are doing. Same with cell phones. You have a choice to respond to the text. Is that right? Means people send you a text right now that thinking that I'm sending you a text and your job is to respond to that text right away. It was not the case earlier. You send them a snail mail or a postcard and they will get it. And then by the time they respond, you have already forgotten what you had written to them. Now it's all instant. So you allow that instant reaction to instantly affect you. There's a choice. If you don't, then you don't. But I think you're putting that pressure on yourself. And I think the challenges with the busy mind is the pressure that is happening. Phone messages, texts, emails. People forget to breathe. And this is a proven fact. When you get an email or a text, and when you're looking at it, you don't breathe until you finish reading it. And then it's called as email apnea. Email apnea, where your breathing pattern is obliterated because someone who has nothing to do with where you are and what you're doing right now is capable of making you breathless.
Do you think that's similar to what's happening with social media? You know, you talked about the role of social media, and you know, it sounds like it should be something that helps connect people and create more community, but it really seems to lead to unhealthy mental states. Do you think there's a connection there?
Overboard. People go overboard with it
Mhm.
because it's constant yum and yuck, isn't it? This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what makes me happy. This is what makes me unhappy. This is actually, I'm loving it. Oh, this is making me really angry about it. Because you can't just respond. You can't look at it and not have a reaction. You have a reaction before you realize to every little thing. And the more choices you give of those experiences, the more difficult it is. Like you go outside in the wood and you look at something and you see how beautiful it is. There's no choice, isn't it? You don't want this tree to be at this angle with the light, maybe this, so that the sunlight falls over here. You just accept it as is. You enjoy it. But here you're constantly judgmental. And that judgmental quality, once you develop, in everything you become so fussy and judgmental. It's almost impossible for you to lead a non-judgmental life, ever. And it's very difficult to train yourself not to pass a judgment on anything. Your body will feel it. Your body can tell you how does it feel when you listen to something or when you do the yoga and when you see, and that visceral experience is more powerful than the one that you're looking at someone's and letting your dopamine go off balance. When you go to a group yoga class, you come out and you walk taller, and how good you feel. And what will it take for you to feel that one more time? Is to come back and have that experience one more time. Is that right? There are two Sanskrit words that we use called as Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas means something which is liked by my senses, but may not always be good for me. Preyas, Preyas, is something which is liked by my senses, but may not always be good for me. Could be a cookie, could be something, the favorite movie, or whatever you are enjoying. Your senses love it, but may not always be good for you. The other word, Shreyas is something which your senses do not like it as much, but is actually good for you. So when you ate kale the first time, you didn't like it as much. Or when you drink celery juice, you don't like it that much. Or when you eat khichdi, you don't like it that much. But it's good for you. So something that the senses don't like, but it is good for you. And slowly you keep on doing things that the senses don't like, but which is good for me. And afterward, you start loving it and liking it. When the Shreyas becomes Preyas, you love your yoga, you miss your meditation, you love your kale, you love your morning smoothie or green juice, or you love your exercise, because now that Shreyas that was difficult initially has become Preyas and has become an adopted lifestyle where viscerally you feel that this is good for me and this is what I love to do. And if you do this, you have cracked the code for enlightened living. Make sense?
It does. Thank you so much. We have about 10 minutes left. So Mark, I think I'm going to turn things back over to you.
Okay,
to ask Doctor to close us out. And if
very good.
either you or Doctor have any final question for Dr. Kshirsagar as well.
I think unless the doctor's welcome to ask a question. Doctor, thanks so much for this presentation. It's been wonderful. We're gonna shift back to Dr. Pratap. 2 doctors, no waiting. Dr. Pratap, please.
Okay, our heart is in the same place, so I have no question. I have not to say anything, because whatever way I was feeling, he was telling it, and whatever he's telling it, I understand it. And therefore, it is very difficult to try to interpret the same thing again and again. The main thing is live, love, happy. All these few words remember in daily life. This whole happiness idea, even it is mentioned in our in Jefferson statement, that when they created a thing, they wrote about the happiness. And I have, let me see what they say. They say, let me see the happiness. In the preamble of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson wrote that people are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We have the God-given right to be happy. And once we tasted it, we will never leave it. That is the main part of the happiness. Once you have it, you can never let go it. And therefore, I always say, if you love yourself, you love others. If you care for yourself, you care for others. If you are happy, you see happiness with people. And that is the way I look at it. And I always say, by nature, you are a happy person. But you learn certain things that comes in the way. That's the only way. And that's why it is very, very important from the point of view that as a child, if you are trained to be happy to start with, you will never forget it.
That's a beautiful point.
And it is the case.
And the pursuit of happiness, as you're talking about, we are discussing this, what we are calling it as non-sensorial happiness. Happy for no reason. Happy for no good reason. Non-sensorial happiness. Because the sensorial happiness is transitory, is transitioning, is changing. Every little thing that makes you happy is capable of making you unhappy. It's a double-edged sword. Every little thing that you claim that makes you happy is going to make you unhappy. And there are numerous studies that prove that, whether people winning lotteries or getting their leg shattered and what their life is about a year ago, their happiness scale more or less is the same. It doesn't change. So that non-sensorial happiness is so important. And as you practice this pure practices of yoga and Ayurveda and Vedanta, what is happening is you are minimizing the way you are swaying like a pendulum from feeling good or bad to happy to unhappy. You're minimizing the swing of pendulum to a degree where, yes, as a human being, you're going to feel good, bad, but you can come back to the center rather quickly than taking a long time for you to be happy or unhappy or to recover from that. So I think these practices are very powerful. They keep you into a state of happiness. Sukha dukkhe samakrutva labha labho jaya jayo. So in a state of happiness or unhappiness, victory or vanquished, gain or losses. You're maintaining that state where it doesn't get swayed that easily. And that's why these practices are so powerful and so beautiful. And once again, salute to Dr. G for making it accessible for all of us.
You are happy now? Okay. I will only say this one, that seeing all those faces make me very happy. And and also seeing their faces smiling, that is wonderful. And I believe very strongly that if we meet like this, we will be conditioning ourselves to that environment.